Because usually if you do it wrong, it's something and you're wearing it. Right? Yes! Oh, yeah.
All right, I'll let Mary Ann close the door when she comes in. Lynn. Yeah, that's it. All right, let's open in prayer. Father, I just thank you so much. We always thank you for the privilege of studying your word, giving us time to study your word, for your Holy Spirit revealing truth in your word.
Yes.
Father, Ecclesiastes is not an easy book to understand, and yet there is such truth and such hope for the world that we live in within this book, from the wisest man that ever lived. Father, I pray that we would apply what we have been learning to our lives, and that we would glean from one another, from our study. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Well, next week is it. I know you can't believe it, but that's it. We are done. So then we go into the summer. I would like to, we usually have lunch after at the last study, so I'm hoping we can just have like a potluck next week. But I'll send out an email. I usually just bring a crock pot of something, everybody just adds to it. Thank you so much. We're going to review at the end, but I want your overall opinion, because you're in chapter 8, you only got through chapter 12 now left. What are you thinking of Ecclesiastes? Because everybody goes, oh, Ecclesiastes, that's depressing. Dave.
My heart tells me that this is God's word.
Right.
It's part of his holy canon.
Mm-hmm.
My brain tells me, why is this in here?
Yeah. Right?
It's
You
very
keep
curious.
reading with that question, don't you?
Yeah.
Why is this here?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm reading the advice of someone who doesn't think that all of his works are going to be written down. So I don't.
Forgotten.
Yeah. So the fact that we have kings and everything like that is context. But it feels like I'm reading the advice of a wise man who's experienced all the sin that
Good.
it talks about.
Good. Because that's true. There is a wise man that has experienced all of this. Right?
Person
Lydia?
that made some bad choices
And made some bad choices, yeah.
and knew better.
I know.
There's times I can read through this thing and something will pop, it
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
But I find myself far too many times thinking now how much a person does in a lifetime and what is it for?
What's it for? What's the point?
What's going to happen afterward? Is it worth it? And it's hard to, once you get a mindset like that, it's hard to bring the fact that God is watching over us and taking care of us. The man was just too smart.
So, yeah, right? Right?
It's hard for us to follow the wisdom of somebody that's
Experienced it all.
Yeah.
Knows it all.
Yeah.
Knows the outcome of everything. And he's at the end of his life.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it now.
True.
What I have the same question is kind of like, why?
Why?
But I'm finding explanations all along. And one being that I see this as a comparison to Job.
Yes.
Job was absolutely brilliant, and all his friends were brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever transcribed all of that,
True.
brilliant minds.
Brilliant.
And yet Job, in the first chapter, said, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away.
Blessed be the name of the Lord.
And Solomon quotes that part, but he doesn't do part B. Blessed be the name
He
of the Lord.
doesn't.
Job says, but Solomon never says that.
Mm.
So to me, it's like a comparison. You have rich, brilliant men, and what happens to them. Job gets the snot knocked out of him with all these things taken away, and he
Right.
said, what did I do? I didn't do, his friends, so he's put on trial. Solomon keeps
Accumulating. Right.
and doesn't, it's different. He's not put on trial. He doesn't have peers. He doesn't have the relationships. And he's just in this a different position individually. So I see it as a comparison, and all of it's one thing.
What do you think the whole theme of this book is?
I think
Darren?
nothing really matters except what we do to the glory of God.
Right, right. Marianne?
He seems to be writing from a perspective of do as I say, not as I did.
As I did. Yeah, as I did.
But I will say, for me, reading this, I keep saying, how many people do I know who are here?
It's an easy place to go to.
Because the theme of this book, could it not be, what is the meaning of life?
Yes.
Is that now, this world is asking so much, especially coming out of the pandemic. That gave them a whole new perspective of life. What really matters, and what I am doing mattering? And can I change it? And if you're coming out of the pandemic, are you going right back to what you used to do, or you're going, I don't know if I want to be doing that anymore? People are really in this mode now. What is the meaning of life, and do I want to change my life's trajectory? Wow, are we in a great book to direct them to that? Okay?
Do you know what this?
Yes.
I found this morning. Numerous times in Ecclesiastes, Solomon says, fear God,
Right.
which is great.
Right.
But he doesn't put the second half to it, which is Old Testament as well. Fear God, and the editor at the very end says, fear God, and obey his commandments.
So that's where we're going to go.
But Solomon doesn't say that second part. And Jesus says,
Right? And I'm not going to fall on my sword that Solomon doesn't. Because
Well, I
we
mean,
give
I
acclamation
don't-
to Solomon of doing the whole book. This is his end, whatever you say, and he agrees to whatever that is. But chapter 12, boy, that's a great ending to this book.
To
This
say
is a great,
okay.
yes.
Jim,
yes.
in both the books, 7 and 8,
Yeah,
he comes back to God.
he does. And I think towards the end of it, I haven't done 8 through 12 yet, I think that's really where we're going to land.
6 and 7, not 7 and 8.
Right.
7 and 8.
Right.
6 through 8.
6 through 8, that's what we did. You were
Okay.
right. All right, let's read.
I was just struck, and I'll confess, I've listened to it in my car like 12 times this week, but I didn't sit down and do anything. But he's better off dead.
Yeah,
Well, we all know that we're better off dead.
amen. Right?
Because we got so much more information
True.
on what's ahead.
Accurate, right, that he did.
We heard the Savior talk about the kingdom, that he didn't hear unless he was in tune with God to hear directly from him. So, yeah, we can read this and go, yeah, better off dead.
Yep. Or not ever being born.
Or not even.
Or
Not
not
even
even
being
being born.
born to deal with any of it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, verses 1 through 6. Where you're like, oh, it's only 12 verses. Good. Got that one done.
That was nice.
It was nice. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun. Okay, have we seen that before? Is he continuing his thought? From chapter 5, what verse? Because hopefully you have that written down by verse 1.
the last one.
That and verse 13. I have seen there is an evil.
grievous evil.
Okay, yeah, the greatest evil. Under the sun, and it is prevalent among men. A man to whom God has given riches and wealth and honor so that his soul lacks nothing of all that he desires. Well, isn't he desiring himself? It's totally him. Yet, now this is not, I don't think, him. God has not empowered him to eat from them, for a foreigner enjoys them. This is vanity and a severe affliction. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, however many they be, but his soul is not satisfied with good things, and he does not even have a proper burial, then I say, better the miscarriage than he, for it comes in futility and goes into obscurity, and its name is covered in obscurity. It never sees the sun, it never knows anything. It's better off than he. Even if the other man lives 1,000 years twice and does not enjoy good things, do not all go to one place. Well, do all go to one place?
Unless he's talking about the ground.
Death,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So they all died. Well, this miscarriage one never even was born, so that's already dead, right?
Yeah, but
So,
we know that it's better than that.
right,
Yeah.
right.
This is, to me, trying to translate this, I
Good.
don't understand how the people that translated this even understood it.
Uh-huh.
You know,
That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
what words are they supposed to use from the wisest man on earth? And they are trying to translate his words, and we're supposed to understand them.
Right?
It's futile.
It's futile. I tell you how, honestly, I will read it, and what I think I don't understand, I have the New Living Translation on my phone, and I'll read that. Some things are totally lost. And then I'm like, I don't think that's right at all. But then sometimes I read it and go, oh, because a lot of times it'll say it. Well, what is it? What are you referring back to? Because it really goes a long way back to find what the it is. So sometimes that helps me. Sometimes I throw it out. But different translations, that, man, that
And I
helps me.
cheated. I
To go to the
I go
commentary.
to commentaries almost immediately.
I get it because it's frustrating. It's
Yeah.
frustrating when you read it and you go, I don't understand.
It'd be interesting to diagram.
Right? That's very helpful to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I might not make it.
Right? It's like my page goes on and on, but that does help. You get to the point, well, obviously I said 5:13, there's evil under the sun. What's the difference? See, God gave riches, wealth, and honor, but not the power to enjoy them. But somewhere else they said he did give power to enjoy. He empowered them. Do you remember what verse that was?
19.
Right. 5:19. So why do you think that he can't enjoy them? What could be where Solomon is, the
I was talking
Era.
about future, like when he said we can't enjoy them.
right? It could be. It could be. Solomon is king over who? Over
Israel.
Jerusalem, and we saw how big that was. Is he king over the world?
No.
No. So is injustice being done in other kingdoms? Yes. Do you think he's seeing that? Who do you think's coming to him for wisdom? How can you rule this whole thing? And I'm just, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so other kingdoms, I think that he doesn't rule, such as Queen of Sheba, right, are coming to him for wisdom. Okay, do some of those kings, rulers, whatever, have lots of riches?
Yes.
Yes. Are they enabled to enjoy them? Maybe not.
Not if they've got problems in their kingdom.
Right.
That's why they're coming to him, presumably.
And we know Israel was in peace for 40 years, however long Solomon ruled. Okay? These other countries maybe want to know, how are you ruling in peace? Because we're not. We got riches, but we're not ruling in peace. Okay? I'm thinking he's observing this stuff and he's writing this down. God has not empowered them. But he did empower Solomon. He didn't empower this other guy. That was 18 to 19. Did we say that? Verse 18 and 19. Okay. Somehow a foreigner is enjoying their riches. Now, wouldn't that just frost you? I mean, you have really, really, really worked and worked and worked, but somebody else is enjoying the profit of your labor, and you're not. Vanity and a severe affliction. Okay, that just seems hopeless. In verse 2, okay? Dissatisfied man who has how many children? Could that be him? I don't know anybody else that could have 100 children without all those concubines. I don't know how you would do that, okay? But he does, and he has hundreds of children, right? But he's not finding satisfaction in that either. That's, again, a sad situation. Do you think of Abraham when he goes, Eliezer, my servant, is going to inherit all my wealth, and I don't have a son, I don't have anybody to pass it down to? Well, is that Solomon?
Well, no, he has plenty of people to pass it down to.
Right. And we know who is Rehoboam's mother? I should ask that.
Oh, no. Bathsheba.
Bathsheba. So that's who we get in his kingdom. His servant's name is Jeroboam. And he's going to get most of it.
Okay.
Rehoboam's going to get 2. Okay, and Solomon knows that because God told him that. It will be split. The kingdom will be split. Okay, 7 to 9. All a man's labor is for his mouth, and yet the appetite's not satisfied. Okay, now in choir stuff, we have you would study that. There's called a vomitorium. And this is where we come. I mean, if Casey's telling us where you guys are in the vom, you are in the stairs, and what's the vom? The vomitorium. Why is it called the vomitorium exactly? Yeah, because they eat and they want to eat more, but their stomach is full, so they go out and they vomit so that they can come back in and eat more. So these wings out here on a step, that's what the vomitorium is. It's like, this is what he's saying, okay? This is the culture right here. What advantage does the wise man have over the fool? What advantage does the poor man have knowing how to walk before the living? What the eyes see is better than what the soul desires. This too is futility and is striving after wind. Okay, explain these verses to me where we live now. Apply them to your life now, our world now. Marianne.
What I wrote for these 3 verses in my margin is you can have and still not be satisfied.
Right?
Mindset's in the wrong place.
Mindset is in the wrong place, and your love and where you put satisfaction in
Is in the world.
Totally in the world. Right. And it just gets taken like that. Just like that. Okay? How could you send somebody to Ecclesiastes who is just trying to find purpose in my life? Because you should. Because the answer is right here. But how could you explain these verses to them? This is why you study.
I mean, our hope is in Jesus.
Right.
So we can have them read how futile it is to even be the wisest person in the world. And I think that, like, it also kind of helps us break down our expectations for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if the wisest
Yeah.
man in the world can stumble so hard, then,
Right.
like, if we stumble hard too,
Mm-hmm.
then it just speaks to our flesh and humankind.
And that just because he was wise and really, really rich, heart still doesn't get satisfied, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, it doesn't get satisfied with worldly things and riches. But you think it would. You would think that would be where you would get happy, because everything's now at ease. But that's not what happens when you get riches. Everything's just not at ease. Okay? We saw not satisfied. How many times have we seen that through this book? And we're only in chapter 6. You're only halfway through. So hopefully you went back and went, gosh, how many times have I seen this not satisfied? Or advantage. Okay, or the eye has seen. Boy, he just listed. So I went back. Your eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor your ear with hearing. It's just never enough. Okay? Chapter 4, verse 8. Your eye is not satisfied with riches. With riches. Your eye is seeing it. 5:10, the one who loves money is not satisfied with it, and the one who loves abundance is not satisfied with income. It's always a little bit more. If you ask Elon Musk, how much is enough? What would he say?
A little bit more.
A little bit more. Right? A little bit more. Yeah. How much is a little bit? That's relative, isn't it? My little bit and his little bit is way different. Okay? Chapter 6, verse 3, your soul is not satisfied with good things. That doesn't even make sense.
Well, there's always got to be better.
That's it. So what do? Compare. Compare, which never goes anywhere good. Not in things. It never goes anywhere good. Chapter 7, your appetite, verse 7, is not satisfied. hence, like I said, vomitorium. Or, you know, favorite line when we watch the Muppet Christmas Carol, you know, the guys, the pigs, I think are coming out. They go, that was good for breakfast. Oh, what's for lunch? It's like, they just finished breakfast. What do they think about what's for lunch? We do that all the time. You finish lunch, it's like, I gotta lay something out for dinner. So it's like, it's just a constant, okay? What advantage? Okay, why do we study? There's got to be an advantage, doesn't there? We're not just wasting our time studying. There's got to be an advantage. If Solomon is seeking out wisdom with knowledge, and God gave him that, there's got to be an advantage somewhere, doesn't there? Why else would you do it? Wouldn't you be just wasting your time? He talks about a wise man over a fool and a poor man. Now here's what I got. That knows how to act in front of other people. That's when it said, the poor man knowing how to walk before the living. Okay, explain how he would act in front of others. Being poor, and I'm supposing the others are not poor. What would his actions, how would they be different?
Well, I would think that he would not be subservient.
Like you owe me. Or I'm just here to do whatever you want me to do because I'm the
Pitiful me.
Poor pitiful me.
I would think that he would act on a common level.
Got ya.
You know, God created you, God created me. We might be at two different stations, but we are the same.
There you go. That takes a little bit of self pride or self-confidence, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. You can also think
Something to be said about that.
somebody who's uneducated,
Mm-hmm.
who hasn't been brought up with the manners.
That's good
this
too.
Is the way that we.
But
Right?
see, it's relative, really. A poor man doesn't have what? I mean, you could be poor in riches, in money, you could be poor in spirit. I mean,
That's a good question.
what's
Poor in
he,
what?
you know, poor in what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he's lived his life with all his wisdom, he's done all these things, I mean, it could be poor in anything.
Right? Right? And my thought was going to Solomon as a king, and before we have had an appropriate and an appointed time, and there's a proper way to come before the king or into the temple or before God, and when you put your vows and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, he's a king, there's a proper way to come before him, whether you're poor or rich, indigent or not, there's a proper way to come to him. I mean, look at the Queen of Sheba and what she brought just to come to him and ask him questions. That was amazing. Dave.
With the wise man, he always has to be concerned, does this person want something from me?
Right.
And the poor man doesn't have that same concern.
That's very true. Because he doesn't have anything to give him.
Right.
Yeah. Physically.
Well, and to a
Material.
poor man, the way I understand, like through the Depression, people that were poor didn't know they were poor.
Right? Right?
So
Because
maybe
they were
a poor
eating.
man doesn't know a lot of things. He doesn't know that, gee, what's it like to have money, or what's it like to have,
Right.
to be able to give. And
So what advantage? What advantage? The wise over the fool, the poor over the...
Well, for the poor man, he's not ruled by things.
Right?
yeah.
Right? He doesn't lose sleep. He has a good rest, right? Instead of the rich man always... Okay? It's better appreciate what you have than what you don't. Isn't that the comparison?
Yeah, that,
It's
I mean,
never
the
enough,
note on
never,
that,
never, never enough.
What we have what pleases God. It should be enough to please us.
Right? Okay?
Paul is
Honestly.
content, and Paul is
I have
content in
learned to
any
be
place,
content.
anything.
Isn't it? Isn't it the truth?
Yeah, he's a good example.
He is such a great example. Such a great example. Verses 10 to 12. Whatever exists has already been named, and it is known what man is, for he cannot dispute with him who is stronger than he is. Some people think that him is a god, because God is stronger than him. Some translations make that God, but it's not capital H, so I guess that's up to interpretation. For there are many words which increase futility. What then is the advantage, there's that word again, to a man? For who knows what is good for a man during his lifetime, during the few years of his futile life? He will spend them like a shadow. For who can tell a man what will be after him under the sun? Has he asked that question before? Okay, hopefully you have a little trail going back to chapter 5, because that's where you just left off. Verse 18, right? The few years of his life, right? Which God has given. This is, well, his life is his reward. From who?
God has given it.
Well, God's given it, right? Okay? So he can't dispute his destiny with one stronger than he is, which is true. Because God is in control of your life, so you can't dispute with, well, how come you're letting him live longer than I have to? No, you're not in control over that. God is. Who alone knows what is good for man to spend his life doing? Okay, now I don't know about you, but when we go into the summer, I'm like, yes, I can get up, I can do what I want to do throughout the day, right? What I want. I get that way. I'm just like, okay, I don't have to have this, and I don't have to be there, and I don't have to prepare for this, and it's like, yes. But do I really? Am I really in control of that? I mean, I feel like I am, right? But God determines your ways, doesn't he? You get up and you go, this is what I'd like to do today, but what have you got for me? What is it that you want me to do today? That's a great way to start out a day, I gotta tell you. Who can tell a man what his future will be? Does he know the answer to that?
Yes.
He's already answered it. He already knows. Again, this is chapter by verse, but he's already answered it. Only God knows. In chapter 7, verse 14, 8-7, he's already going to say that. Okay? So I want you to make sure you put down there on the end of chapter 6, 7:14 and 8:7, he answers it. This is not an open-ended question. And in just reading that chapter, you'll go, he doesn't know. Yes, he does. This is not a chapter verse, it's all split up, so he doesn't know. Yes, he does. This is all one thought thing, okay? People will take that out of context and make it say something it doesn't. So make sure you know what you know, what you know. Possible theme. Well, you do get not satisfied in here, right? And he's not satisfied with what?
Not satisfied with what he has.
What he has.
Riches and wealth.
He's going to have more than you will ever have in your entire lifetime. Probably from generation to generation to generation. So he's already telling you, those don't bring satisfaction. Are there people in this world that need this word, including us? You just watch it. You just watch the news. You not watch Elon Musk this morning. It's like, I'm just going to buy all of Twitter. Here's my offer. Well, is that going to bring him satisfaction?
On that one little thing.
On that one little thing. He thinks he's going to change the world with that, which he could. But is he going to be satisfied with that?
Temporarily.
No, he's Elon Musk.
Till the next thing comes up.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
don't we all do that?
We totally do.
strive, maybe we don't strive for riches, but we always seem to fall a little short, the end of the month.
Right?
So
It's
we
like
wish
a little bit
we
more.
had a little bit more.
Okay? Right?
Well, everybody,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
everybody that has wealth always wants more. They're
Because
never
it doesn't
satisfied
satisfy.
seemingly anyway.
So they think the more will
more.
satisfy, right?
There just appears to be a total lack of gratitude throughout Solomon's life.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if he's rich or poor or whatever,
right.
there's no thankfulness.
There's no thankfulness to God, who's the only one that provided what he had. There's no possible way he could have what he has without God's provision. And he knows that. He knows it. I'm not sure he's voiced it, but he knows it. Okay? a possible thing. Just make sure you have somewhere in there is not satisfied, because this is building up. Okay. Chapter 7. A good name is better than good ointment, and the day of one's death is better than the day of one's birth. Why would he say that? Where is he in his life?
Close to
Yeah.
the end.
Toward the end. Okay, so he really can't change much else, can he? So he's at the end, but he's saying that's better than when at birth. Okay. Anybody else go, I don't want to go back and relive. I don't want to go back. I just like right here, and let's move forward.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to go. I don't want to go relive. No.
That's
Some
one of
days,
Satan's best tools,
right?
is to
The good
remind
old
us,
days were so
remind
much
us of all the
better.
things, good and bad,
So true.
to make us discontent with where we are now.
That's it. Solomon learned that lesson, I think, here. Okay? It's better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, because that is the end of every man, and the living takes it to heart. Okay? I've been to more funerals past couple years than I ever cared to go to in that short span of time ever again. Ever again. But do you not leave going, I never knew that about that person. I never knew that person had. Well, whose fault was that?
We didn't know him well enough.
I either didn't know him well enough, or I didn't take the time to sit down and go, tell me your story. You know, I want to learn from you. You've had quite a life, I'm sure. Tell me, blah, blah, blah. You know? Some things you find out about people, you're like, no way. We had a lady in choir that was a sharpshooter. And when she and her husband got married, they couldn't be that anymore, because if they got captured, they could use one another against. I'm like, her? Mm-hmm. She was a better shot than her husband. I don't want to find that out at her funeral. This is, okay, take time to know about people. I know that when we leave from a funeral, you always ponder. I remember specifically getting in after someone's funeral several years ago going, and life is still going on. How can this be? How can the world keep spinning? Do you not know who's dead? You ponder, am I going to make that kind of an impact on the world and all these people like they did? He's right. He's right.
Well, it's
Okay.
like telling our kids, you know, it's amazing. We had 3 generations together this week.
Mm.
1, 2, 3, 4 generations.
Wow.
And telling these younger kids, you know, what it was like, and they really, or what things are like for them, for you now, they really listen.
They
It's
really
amazing.
do.
Some listen.
Um,
The others, it's just futile.
Well, it's either a shock, right?
Yeah.
Or it's a respect. Because I've never experienced something that hard. Or is that how you made it through whatever? And plus, it's their history that I hope they're interested in. Sorrow is better than laughter, for when a face is sad, a heart can be made happy. So when you're happy, you're already there, right? Now you're going to make yourself, so it doesn't really work in the opposite. The mind of the wise is in the house of mourning, while the mind of fools is in the house of pleasure. Again, you're pondering life. It is better to listen to the rebuke of a wise man than one to listen to the song of fools. Now he's going to continue to describe the song of fools. For as the crackling of thorn bushes under a pot, okay, that pot that's on fire, I mean, how fast do the things burn up? It's gone. So is the laughter of the fool, and this too is futility. For oppression, I hope that took you right back to chapter 4, makes a wise man mad, and a bribe corrupts the heart. The end of a matter is better than its beginning. Do you not get to the end of a weed bed and you're done weeding? Are you not glad you're at the end and not the beginning? Patience of spirit is better than haughtiness of spirit. Do not be eager in your heart to be angry, angry, for anger resides in the bosom of fools. Do not say, why is it that the former days were better than these, right? The good old days. For it is not from wisdom that you ask about this. Wisdom, along with an inheritance of money, right, is good, and an advantage to those who see the sun. For wisdom is protection, just as money is protection. But the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the lives of possessors. Now, I was on I-4 last night going to choir. There's a car that's on fire, literally on fire. And I looked at Ron and go, so what if they owe like on that car? Because it's gone now. Because, well, hopefully they had insurance on it and they're not upside down. And they'll get it checked. I said, so they start at bottom zero, hopefully with some money, and go get another car and start all over again. Yeah, so, right? What does it say? For wisdom is protection just as money is protection. Okay? Yes. Now, a good name, what is a good name? That's just something that's your reputation. Okay, just name somebody that really, really has a bad reputation that everybody would know. Okay, but see, that's coming from our point of view.
That's right.
Who's somebody that Nixon had a bad reputation?
Yeah.
But what did Nixon do before all that?
And to his family, did he have a bad reputation?
Right?
Yeah.
Did he not open the trade to China?
Yes.
Is not most of the stuff that's sitting in your house made in China? That's not a bad reputation, but what do we always remember most? He can never, ever get that back. That's what he's known in this world. How'd you do it? But what did he do all before his life? Well, that doesn't really count. But it does. It affects your life. But you don't remember for that. You can never get it back. These are wise words, okay? Ointment is just outward, right? It's temporary. Reputation, well, you soil your reputation. I'm sure you'll ever get it back, Dave.
I think of Robin Zacharias, you know,
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, had a great reputation on top of the world, as it were.
Right, right. And I don't even know who I was talking to about that. I love Robbie and everything that he taught. And I watched a video from his daughter who took over, I think her name's Sarah. I think it's Sarah that took over. And the video that she sends out from RZIN. And then I read a letter from his other daughter, Naomi, and his wife. Opposite ends. Opposite ends. I'm like,
In which way? Like in how they feel towards them?
in evidence of what he did and what he didn't do. And you and I know with technology, anything can be made to look like it was when it really wasn't. Robbie was not technologically savvy. If there was an update to be on his phone, he had to give it over to somebody to go, I don't even know what button to push, please do this. He was also a pack rat. Every single piece of paper his wife had to go through. She found nothing to validate what they said he did. Nothing. So I leave it. I absolutely leave it. I go, God, you used Robbie. You changed my life through Robbie. Did he do the things he's being accused of? I don't know. He's not even here to defend himself. So I'm going to leave that there. And I'm going to go on. And I'm not going to promote that because I don't know if that's true. I don't know if this is true. You know what's true. And I know what he did in my life, and what he wrote changed people's lives. And what he wrote and how he used the word is not negated because of allegations after he's dead. So that's where I have to leave that. Now, has his reputation been totally, yeah, it's gone. It's totally gone. Never get it back again. Saddest thing in the world. But isn't Satan happy about that? Very.
But
You
it's-
and I were talking about it, and as far as bottom line is, we have to follow truth,
That's
not
it.
people. But also, you know, we could put this in the context of Solomon,
Mm.
that he's so worried about his reputation. and
He
what's gonna
is,
happen after.
and he's going to die.
And if we apply that to ourselves, like no matter what happens after I'm gone, and
Right.
if my kids smear my name for some reason.
Right.
I have to find contentment right now because I'm going to a place of truth
Mhm.
where there is unfailing love.
That's it.
And that has to be my driving
That's
force.
it.
And not to fret over
Yes.
what's gonna happen.
What a
might
waste of
happen.
breath. Can you change it?
Right, we can. We just have to follow truth.
That's it. That is it.
Jenny, we can't judge a person whole life by this.
That's a good point, too.
Yeah.
You
That
have
is
to
such a
judge
good
them,
point.
well, we're not supposed, I'm using the word loosely.
But you're
still
right.
Look at the whole thing.
That's right.
Right.
And even Nixon, even Trump, even Biden,
It's
whoever.
so true.
You can't just take a small part.
Mhm.
Because, first of all, the Christian big person
Yeah.
that has such an influence on
Yeah.
people, Satan's going to go after him double fold.
Absolutely. Yeah, because that ruins his cause totally.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we give Satan the
We
credit
do.
rather than God.
Yeah.
And 99% of his life was
Right.
wonderful.
Right? And I do that with Robbie because people would come to your door and you'd say stuff and I'm like, I don't know how to answer them. Like, I don't have time for you today. You close the door and you're like, wow, I really need to know how to answer that question. And I listened to Robbie and I'm like, okay, I gotta listen to that again.
And again.
Okay, I gotta listen to that again. Or read one page, put it down. What did you just read? I have no idea. I think maybe we better read that again. Yes, because I need to think like that person that's asking me that question. What are they really asking you? Because what they're asking you is not what they're really asking you. It's really distorted and coming back to here. But you got to realize that they're really not asking you that question. They're asking. So I started thinking differently. And that changed my world of how I could talk to other people and not get sucked in and get panicked. Yeah, no, that's not what they're asking you. They're really wanting to know an eternal question. Oh, they're not just wanting to fight with me. No, they're not wanting to fight with me. They really don't know. You need to put it back in the court and make them think. Well, what about, oh, isn't that what Jesus did? We want to ask you a question. Well, okay, you asked me that question, but I'm not going to ask you a question. Oh, well then, like the baptism of John. Is it from God or is it from man? Well, we don't know. Then I'm not going to answer your question either. And off he goes. Because that's not really what they were asking. Right. I would have got sucked in. Let me argue with you. No, that's not what you're supposed to do. See? So again, it's just different. We said funerals, memorials cause you to contemplate your life. It better. It's sure better. And I hope when you leave, you changed. You go, man, this is what matters. I need to take time to do this and not worry about that. Okay?
But isn't it so interesting, like at funerals, we speak so highly of other people, and like this person that died.
Seriously.
We say the nicest things, so we take the lens off ourselves. We focus on someone else. Makes everybody besides the person that's dead feel so good, and it's like, why don't we do that at birthday parties?
Why don't we?
You know what I mean? Tell people while
Right.
they're alive how
Right.
great they are.
Right.
But instead, we're so critical, and then it's too late. It's
too late.
So it's
I was so appreciative at my 60th surprise birthday party. That is what Ron had people get up and do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to hear this because when I'm dead and in the coffin, I'm not going to hear this. So thanks for doing that now. But we should be freer with our praise. If somebody walks by, you're like, man, I appreciate that person. Open your mouth and tell them that. Don't keep so many things in here. Let them come out. Those words will last months. Months. I mean, a praise is like, wow. So does the criticism.
Last years.
Last years. But I'm telling you, one comment, oh man, I could live on that for months. Okay? Fools and wise men have reputations. This is what we've been talking about. Okay? Don't have that wise man reputation. That's what we want. Verses 5 to 12 do contrast wisdom and folly. Listen to wisdom. Patience is better, right? Anger is foolishness. Hopefully, as parents, that was one thing, especially with my son, because girls are different. We just talk girls. Boys have to learn respect for women, and that starts with the mama. So when that anger and disrespect starts, it has to stop right there. Right. Okay, if we can agree to talk, not be angry, then we can talk. Once you start getting angry, we're done. We're done, and you go and contemplate, you think about it, because I'm done talking. Because what happens when you get angry and you start talking? What leaves the room? Respect. Then there's no more respect. Then there's no more conversation. Because if you're listening to somebody that has no respect for you, are you really listening? I know I'm not. I'm just thinking, is this about over? Right? Because I'm getting nothing. Because I don't believe anything that they're saying, because I have no respect for that person. Anger is foolishness. Okay? And truly, it usually ends up doing a lot of hurt. It doesn't help anybody. Here's an advantage. He keeps saying, what's an advantage? What's an advantage? What advantage? Wisdom is advantage. So keep tracking back. What advantage? What advantage? Okay, who's answering it? Here you go. Wisdom is an advantage. It can actually save your life. No way.
Don't do stupid stuff.
Don't do stupid stuff. Okay? I heard on the news again, this boy that was saved with they said a bottle cap in his mouth.
Yes.
I'm like, why does he have a bottle? I'm thinking, a metal bottle cap. I'm thinking, it's a water cap. It's a water bottle cap. I'm like, why does he have a water bottle cap in his mouth?
Because what do kids do?
But I guess they put it in their mouth. I don't know.
He was opening the bottle with his mouth.
Again, not really smart. Wisdom can save your life. This teacher saved his life because she knew how to get it out. I'm just like,
And she'd just taken a refresher
and
course.
she just taken a refresher course because somebody did something stupid. So wisdom saved his life. It's like, but again, do you not learn from people doing incredibly wise things in a very difficult situation? It just, to me, just makes them so smart. Maybe they just kept their mouth shut. They just didn't even respond to whatever was being said, and they walked away. I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. You can do that. That's being smart. Sometimes that really can save your life. Okay? Maybe even not physically, but reputationally. Save your life. Here, again, if you want to track, what advantage? Here's verses that go back to, this is where that word is, advantage, because he just answers it. And I want you to remember, this is not chapter, verse. This is a scroll, because that's what they wrote on. Okay? This is the whole complete thought. He does answer the question. Okay, 13 and 14. Consider the work of God. For who is able to straighten what he has bent? Now, okay, now where did that take you? I'm like, I've read that before. Straightened, bent, crooked. Does that remind you of anything in Ecclesiastes?
Yeah, what was it, chapter 4, chapter 5?
He started out with it. Chapter 1.
Chapter 2.
All the way back to 1:15. Did he say it in another chapter besides
Yes,
1?
he did.
Missed that. Okay, let me know when you find out where that was. In the day of prosperity, be happy. In the day of adversity, consider. So remember, God has made the one as well as the other, so that man will not discover anything that will be after him. What's his question at the end of 6:12? Chapter 6, verse 12. Anything that will be after him. What was his question?
You can tell a man what will be after him.
Who can tell him what will be after him? Has God told Solomon what's going to be after him? So he knows the answer to this question, okay? He knows because God told him the kingdom's going to be split, but because of your father David, I'm not going to do it. He already knows that. So he knows the answer to this question. Chapter 8, verse 7 also tells us that, okay? Consider God's work. Oh, so who's he giving credit to now that's creating adversity, prosperity, calamity, good, riches, poor? Who's he giving the credit to for that? Right. God made them both. All right. Verse 13, who's able to straighten what he has bent? Chapter 1:15, he started out. Remember, he's going back. He's thinking back. What is crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking cannot be counted. He's again pondering that. Now, I don't know about in metals, working with metals. I know in sewing, you put a hole in the fabric and it isn't straight. Well, if you're going to rip it out, then what's that going to do? Bigger hole. So here goes your seam. It's like, oh boy. So what do you start it? Oh, it's going to be a little bit thinner than I thought it was going to be because I'm going to go further over so nobody can see that crooked seam, right? We're going to cut that off, but now you just lost all that fabric. I can't make it straight.
Well,
I just got to start again.
Pound a nail in and you bend it, forget it. You can straighten it, but
You want to get that
you
nail
gotta be
out?
lucky to get
Try
it
again with a
back.
brand new nail, don't you? That's a good example. That's a very good example. Man will not discover anything that will be after him because 6:12 says God's the one who knows the future. Okay? 3:11, man will not find out the work which God has done from the beginning. He is repeating himself and repeating himself. He keeps wanting you to know. You're not going to know the future. God knows the future. God creates adversity, calamity, and good. Riches. It's God. It's God. It's God. This is not a hopeless book. If you read it on the surface, it seems like, woe is me, just eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. That's the surface. You guys have not been on the surface. You've dug deep. Again, back to Mike Swindoll quote, if there is nothing under the sun, our only hope must be beyond it.
Right.
He knows that. Solomon knows that. Okay? Verse 15 to 18. I have seen everything during my lifetime of futility. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in wickedness. So I'm assuming this righteous guy is young. Okay? Because he's comparing a guy that dies in his righteousness and then a guy that lives long, long, long. Do not be excessively righteous. You've been around those people? Yes. And do not be overly wise. Why should you ruin yourself? If you're overly wise, do people want to hang around you? No.
Well, and it's also like if you're overly wise, then what we just said about the bottle cap being in the kid's mouth. I don't know, but then you think as a mom, okay, well then no bottle caps ever
Yeah.
in the house.
There you go.
And it's like,
There you go.
okay, well you can't live like that.
Exactly.
Like,
Can't live like that. Yeah.
Like, no
my kid laughs at me
cars.
too because I broken bones, broken teeth, choking. We don't do choking. We don't do choking. What do kids choke on? Bacon. You cannot have bacon until you're 5. Sorry, that's it. They laugh at me. I'm like, I'm not kidding. You may not have bacon. Because you choke. I think sometimes that's overly wise. No, that's just something that what you do in your house. I don't care what you do in your house. You can cut your grapes up in half, or you can give them to them whole. I don't care. I don't do choking. I don't do that. Nothing freaks me out like choking. I get broken bones.
Yeah.
Go to the hospital, fix it up, whatever, blood, blood, choking. No, we don't do choking. No, they're not bleeding. Can't do. Other things freak people out, right? Is that being overly wise? In some people's mind, yes. Yes, that's okay. I can live with that. Keeps me at peace. Totally, I'm good. Okay? But if you do that to the nth degree, no, we can't have that because that's not good. No, we can't have that because
There's no joy.
there's no joy, there's no living. There's just fear. I think fear comes out of that. Do not be excessively wicked and do not be a fool. Why should you die before your time? Does excessive wickedness kill you? Yes.
How do you say excessively wicked?
Yeah.
Just wicked.
Yeah.
Right?
A little bit's okay.
Yeah, for me, it's like a drug addict, and it's just excessive, or they'll go and they'll get themselves cleaned up, then they go back, and it will eventually kill them. Their body just can't, they can't take it anymore. The body just shuts down, can't do it anymore. At alcohol, alcoholic, things like that.
Well, it's like excessively righteous. Supposed to be righteous.
Uh-huh.
They're supposed to be seeking after righteousness. But, so I think it's the use of it, you can't take literally.
Yeah.
Of excessively wicked, well, a little wicked's okay.
Right?
Well, some of us have minds that just think differently, and so
Why'd you look at me like that?
we just gotta have a little fun sometimes. It's not wickedness, it's just a little...
Humanly.
Okay, now the excessive righteousness, there was one lady that I read about that only had this certain type of dress, certain color dress, so that, it was just the same thing in her closet all the time, so she didn't have to worry about it. It all fit all the criteria, and I'm like, and that way she wasn't spending money that she shouldn't and wasting this, and I'm like,
And thinking vainly about her appearance.
And that was where that goes to me,
Yeah.
but because that just makes people look at you instead of the other way around. So that is, both of them are foolish.
Yeah.
Both of them are foolish. Okay?
Legalism.
Yes.
Yes. It's good that you grasp one thing and also not let go of the other. For the one who fears God, here we go again with fears God, comes forth with both of them. So both hands are full. Instead of one being empty, both hands are full. So avoid both extremes is what it's saying. That's smart. That's wisdom. Sometimes the righteous die early and the wicked live on. Do you not see that?
All the time.
All the time.
Does that just not frost you? Like, Lord, you not see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
we might want to put the other one to justice a little bit.
Right?
Well, I mean, yeah.
But it's like, he will judge all in the appropriate time.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
God
Okay.
gives grace, like, he might have not have called that person through the Holy Spirit sometimes. Like, it's really cool to be a Christian because we can look at things that make us really upset. Okay, well, maybe the Holy Spirit hasn't beckoned that person. Like, if I'm so angry, I want you to die. Okay, like, if that's how angry I am towards a person and I want them to die, I need to look at God's grace and be like, okay, but God sees them and says,
Right?
I still want them with me.
That's his mercy. Yeah. What? Can you not look at Paul? Could you not be an early Christian and go, you want to take this guy out because this is not right. He's killing us. He's killing us. Nobody could have ever seen what God's plan for him was going to be. Again, God's timing. I hope as you you're marking commandments because he tells you, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do. And this was a lot of don't, and then a do. Okay? So it says, don't be excessively righteous. Don't be overly wise. Don't be excessively wicked. Don't be a fool, but do fear God. Now again, David was asking us last week, do you see a theme running through Ecclesiastes? No, I think back then, last week, not really. I'm like, no, I must have missed it, but maybe I'll get it this week because I don't really see a theme except life. But I was looking for it this week. Okay, is there a theme? Because I'm getting to the end. Do I see something? Fear God. Okay, is it just now starting to be said? No.
No.
Because we know it's in chapter 5, right? So I knew it was like chapter 5, 7. Did he say fear God before that? He did. Chapter 3, 14. Is he gonna say, yes, he is. Oh, is this a theme going through Ecclesiastes? Yes. Solomon's the wisest man that ever lived. If he's telling me to fear God, he knows it's wise to fear God. Now, Psalm 111:10, how many times have you quoted that? The fear of God is giving you wisdom. Oh yeah, okay, I've heard that all the time. You're in Ecclesiastes about wisdom. Okay, so put this down to your application. Do I fear God? How can you know? How can you know if you fear God?
Like if you care.
If you care that you even upset him, that's great. If it even matters to you, that's great. How do you know if you don't fear God? You can always see that in other people. You can always see that. What about you? What about you? Do I fear God? Not just in my actions, okay? What about in your thoughts? As you know, we're not going to talk about road rage or any I-4 stuff. We're just going to pass that by. What about in church? Are you judgmental in church about other people? Is that fearing God? Again, we brought up Robbie. His lunch conversation about, can you believe what? Is that fearing God? No, it's not. But literally, because we are studying Ecclesiastes, we want to know Solomon, the wisest, richest man that ever lived, said, fear God. What does that look like?
Probably King David. Looked like.
Yeah. His life, right? Who's a great example? Because he sinned. Big time bad. Murder, adultery, just to name a couple. But God calls him. Well, that can't be. It can't be. A man after God's own heart. How, you do know he killed and had him murdered. You do know. But what did he do when he did that? When he was revealed his sin, what did he do?
He repented.
Just like that. He didn't blame somebody else. Well, you know, it's his fault because he took the letter and told Joab to put him at, you know, he just actually did what I told him. No, he owned his sin. Every time he was shown his sin, he owned it and he repented of it. Isn't that why God wants to show you your sin? Great example of a guy who feared God. Okay? Lydia.
And he wanted to obey, especially, before that episode and then after that.
And then
he
after
wanted
that.
to obey. So the Lord is after, he wants our obedience, like what Jesus said, so why do you keep calling me Lord, Lord, when you don't do as I say?
Right.
So it's doing, but it's also that he's after the heart. We want to do it.
Right? I think that's why he made us parents.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because, well, like Lynn said, if my mom said something, you probably can't, what are you going to, you know what you're going to do? Yeah, I know what I'm going to do. Prove you wrong. Because that's good or bad. It's like, well, you probably shouldn't because that will never work. Watch me.
Well,
I'll make it work.
Isn't Jonah such a good story of not
Right.
fearing God? Like God tells him what to do, and he's like, you know, we were talking about it in our Bible study, like who knows, like maybe like the people of Nineveh, like did something bad to his family. Like, it's that personal.
Quite possible, isn't it?
Where it could have been.
Totally.
But I mean, to the point where he goes in the complete opposite direction, and then God, takes control. But he still does it begrudgingly.
Right.
Like, he doesn't do it with a joyful heart. He doesn't fear God. He thinks that, he honestly is mad at God's mercy.
He's
For
mad
a
at God's
whole group of
mercy.
people.
That's not fearing God, is it?
Right.
You're right.
And then it's like, even after all that, God gives him the tree and gives him shade, and then it dies the next day.
Yeah.
And he's angry at
He's
God.
angry.
So, but it's like, do you know who you're talking to? Like, the God of the universe.
But see, that's a good example of what fearing God is, because he saw the people of Nineveh so much worse than him. They didn't deserve
Right.
mercy and grace, but he did.
Right.
That's not fearing God.
Right.
The fearing God is, but for the grace of God, there go I.
Like,
Thank
he's not
you for
he's not
saving
judging
me.
these people the way they deserve, the same way that God doesn't give us what we deserve.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's a good explanation of fearing God, seeing who you are in his presence, not losing sight of that he does cause calamity, and he causes riches and goodness. He causes both. Fearing God. That's, again, hopefully you can look at your life and go, here I do, there I don't. This is why we study, isn't it? Okay. Verse 19, wisdom strengthens a wise man more than 10 rulers who are in a city. Don't you want somebody wise? I always think of a search committee. I want somebody with the gift of discernment, number one. Number one. I'll have that. I'm just totally gullible, naive. If you tell me it's what you are, that's not what you are. I just totally believe that. Discernment goes, maybe yes, maybe no, but don't you have to know what your spiritual gift is and walking to know I need to be on this committee. And the pastor or whoever, whatever, means I need this person on this committee because they have the gift of discernment, and that will protect us, because wisdom protects you.
I did a study of the word judge in Corinthians.
Yes.
And when Paul is saying, and it sounded like he was contradicting himself, but there in the Greek, there are different forms of judge. And one that we are not to do as believers, that definition and that Greek word is condemn to hell. You're going to hell.
Right.
But we are to do the other type of judging, which
Yes.
is discernment.
Yes.
Analyze.
Isn't there such a protection in that?
Very much. So when you're saying, should we judge in church? Well, we are supposed to judge. There are wolves in sheep's clothing, right? That are going to poison the water. So there is an element of discernment
That we're supposed to do.
We're supposed
Correct.
to, everybody.
Yes,
Right.
and thank you for clarifying that. Indeed, there is not a righteous man on earth who continually, big word, does good and he never sins. But there's Billy Graham. Are you sure?
It would be the
Yeah.
first to say.
Be
Yeah.
the first to say,
Not to-
that's me.
Yeah.
That's me right there. He feared God. Okay? Also, do not take seriously all words which are spoken, so that you will not hear your servant cursing you, for you also have realized that you likewise have many times cursed others. Does that not make you think about the parable? Don't try and get the little speck out of your brother's eye before you get the log out of your own. Yeah. Okay? I get it. You're right. But can't we be critical? Critical. Christians are known for their criticism. That is not what we're supposed to be known for. Wisdom does strengthen. Man, I hope within your own family members, you have people that you go, I don't know the answer to that. Let me ask, and maybe I can get some insight onto how I should do that, or not participate at all. There's wisdom, hopefully, between husband and wife, and between parents and kids. Okay, I've asked my kids. They have different talents, and God has gifted them Amy in understanding psychologically how people, why would they do that? Because she studied psychology. And God just has kind of given her a little bit of insight of why people do what they do. Because I don't understand. She sometimes helps me understand that this is the bent of something. Catherine is more like me. We're just loyal to death, and that can hurt us. So we kind of help each other go, let it go, step back, remove ourselves from this situation because this is not going to go well. We can't fix it because we fix. Nope. We can't fix it, so back away. Love what we're supposed to love. Let it go. Anna is my creative one. I tell people if we had a cabinet to organize, I would not ask Anna.
It'd be colorful.
It would really be all things in color coordinated maybe, but it would not be functional at all. But you want to change something, you want to, I tell people the first Christmas card picture she took of us is us going down this brick road. And I'm going, that's going to look really good. It was awesome because I don't have the eye. I, don't have it. Trust. Draw the strength from others. God created us so differently. Daniel, he's more like me and Catherine. Let it go. Let it go. It'll be better. And watch mouth. Because guys can do that, can't they? Because they're so smart. And he's really smart, but not as smart as he thinks he is. So, but again, isn't that a parenting? Isn't that a parenting thing of ease it up? There's wisdom in each other. Draw from each other. That makes you smart. That makes you even look smart. But even the righteous sin. You may go after something and do it in the right spirit, but it turns out all wrong. Or maybe you didn't do it in the right spirit whatsoever. Okay? Even the righteous sin. Don't take everything you hear said. Can that not put you in your room and close the door and go, I am never coming out again? I'm not doing that because it's true. That's it. And you just hype.
What she said.
Right? Think about what Solomon heard people say. Well, he gave him a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's just say that right up front, right? But he had to back away from that as well. No, don't take everything seriously because you know what I've said sometimes.
We're very quick in the church to do that. And
yes, we are.
Assuming we've heard something with the intent to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And forgetting that we don't know where that person was walking before they said that.
Right.
That was coloring
Right.
the tone of voice, the choice of words.
Context.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Context.
Anger at somebody else coming out at some other situation.
Correct. Right? And only some people know that background.
Yep.
And some people just, what is that? A deer in the headlights. Yeah. But
And there's people like me that make smart aleck comments just to get a laugh sometimes,
Lighten up.
and other people don't get it.
Yeah.
And then they're offended that I would say such a blasphemous thing in church, but
right.
it was not intended in that way at all. And those who knew me were laughing about it.
Because again,
Context is key.
key.
So you have to learn then, because I'm a person who's prone to do that, to not pay attention so closely to other people's words, because all the words do mean things.
They do.
There's a lot of things behind that meaning sometimes.
And sometimes they don't apply whatsoever. They're not even true. I tested. He tested, but God tested something too. If you remember in chapter 3, verse 18, God tested man. Solomon tested all with wisdom, but wisdom's far from him. It's remote. He even says it's exceedingly mysterious and undiscoverable.
Mm-hmm.
But God said he would give them wisdom. And he still says everything he knows, there's still more out there that's undiscoverable and it's exceedingly mysterious. Okay? Can't you think of that verse that says, to whom much is given, much is required?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody was given more than Solomon.
Well, and the application of it.
And
like he was talking about, you could be so wise that you won't do anything
That you won't do
because
anything.
you're afraid of everything.
Right.
So the more you learn, the more you realize you don't learn, and you
don't know.
you got to apply things in a different way to
And
different
you
things.
can get kind of a little fatalistic after that. It's like, I'll never, yeah. What has been is remote and exceedingly mysterious. Who can discover it? I directed my mind to know, to investigate, and to seek wisdom and all explanation, and to know the evil of folly and the foolish of madness. So he knows all that, and then what is his findings? So then you turn the page and you read verse 26. And did you go, huh? And I discovered more bitter than death, the woman. What? How many women does he have?
What kind of women?
Oh, what kind of women does he have?
Wow.
Wow. Oh, let's describe this woman. Whose heart is snares and nets, whose hands are chains. One who is pleasing to God will escape from her, but the sinner will be captured by her. And then she had you go to Proverbs 5, 6, and 7. Okay, this is not the woman we want to be, so thank God you sent us to Proverbs 31. Okay? And this is the woman you want to find, right? One righteous man in 1,000. Okay, that's pretty bad odds. But how many women? Zero. Here's the woman described. She's more bitter than death. So she kills your reputation. Go back to verse 1. She kills your reputation. Heart is snares and nets. If you even think about a net or have had a net put over you as for fun or something, that's not fun. That's a little panicky, to tell you the truth, to try and get out of it, because every time you move, it just gets tighter. That's not fun. Her hands are chains. A sinner is captured by her. Obviously, she's an adulteress. Her ways are unstable and cruel. She ruins, burns, and destroys. I don't know about y'all, but I can picture a couple people in my head that have done this. Dresses as a harlot. She's boisterous and rebellious. Now, I don't want to be this woman, but I have seen women that are that and have done this. 26 to 29 again. Behold, who's going to escape her? Who gets to escape her?
One who's pleasing to God.
Has Solomon been pleasing to God? No. So he knows he hasn't escaped her. That's how he can describe her so well.
Exactly.
He's lived it. Go back to 2:26. Here's the person that pleases God. To a person who is good in his sight, he's given wisdom, knowledge, and joy. Hebrews 11:6, right? Faith pleases God, and he who comes to God must believe that he is, and he is a rewarder of those who believe in him. Just Psalm 5, 6, and 7, we're just going to breeze over it because it was so depressing. Wisdom keeps you from her and listening to your parents' instructions. Depressing about who she is, but is that how you escape her? I just think, yes. But now, parents, what kind of reputation and responsibility you have? You better warn them, teach them, watch out, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. Beware of her. She exists. Okay?
This is off the rails just a little bit, but I found it fascinating. I have not finished this documentary about Winston Churchill.
Oh, I love that guy.
But I'm up to this one point to where Hitler has already started invading countries, and he's hard on France. The president of France is begging England for help.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everybody's trying to beg the United States for it. So Winston Churchill just got into office, right? And he decides to come down and visit the president of France. So they're one-on-one, and they're having this meeting. Well, the president of France's mistress is a fascist.
Oh my gosh.
And she's standing right there during this meeting, and she lunges at Winston Churchill to attack him. She has a knife.
I didn't know
Churchill's
that.
bodyguard is right there, and he stops her. But here the president of France was trying to get help and do what is right, and his mistress is a fascist and totally against the press. So in that moment, history could have been changed
Totally
because
changed.
of this woman of evil intent who had
Wisdom is protection,
the
though, isn't
snares
it?
on this
Bodyguard,
Yes.
wisdom, knowing everybody that's here
But
may not
having
be
the
who
wrong
you think it
woman
is.
in the wrong place.
Golly.
That's pretty wild.
Okay,
Sorry.
at the end, behold, I have discovered this, adding one thing to another to find an explanation. So he's looking at every possible angle, right? Which I am still seeking. He's old, he's still seeking. But I have found one man among 1,000. I have not found a woman among all these. Behold, I have found only this. God did make man upright. He was in the garden. He was upright. But what did man do? He sought out many devices, not for good. The context is not for good. Possible theme, right? Death, mourning. You got to start in there. It's better than birth and feasting, but you've got to also make sure you put in there fear God, because this seems to start a continuing theme that's been there, but I haven't noticed it so much. All right, 8:1-9. Who is like the wise man and who knows the interpretation of a matter? A man's wisdom illumines him and causes his stern face to beam. I just go, aha! It's like the light bulb goes, because that's what my face does when he's reading something. He goes, you can see somebody in a library doing that. You know, like I'm like, oh, they must have read something right there that went. Oh, they just explained something to them. I do that on the TV sometimes. I'll be watching something. I go, no way! Well, your whole face has just changed, hasn't it? I say, keep the command of the king because of the oath before God. Who made the oath before God? The king. Do we not say, so help me God? There's an oath, there's a vow. Don't be in a hurry to leave that king. Don't join in an evil manner, for he will do whatever he pleases. You've got commands here, imperatives, imperatives, imperatives. He's the king. Not just be Solomon, because he's writing it, right? Don't join in an evil manner against me. Since the word of the king is authoritative, who will say to him, what are you doing? He who keeps a royal command experiences no trouble. In other words, follow the rules, nobody gets hurt. Everything's good, right? For a wise heart knows the proper time and procedure.
Do you see, to me that's a little little warning light. Keep the command of the king rather than keep God's command.
Mm-hmm. But he's supposed to be keeping the commands of God.
Well,
so
true, but
I'm hoping
he only serves as at God's will.
He only serves at God's will.
But
I'm hoping he's complying with him. I don't
every
know.
other king could say the same thing.
He could.
So it's still ultimately
Correct.
This is still a warning.
Mm-hmm. What were they ever supposed to have a king?
Yeah. Ultimately,
Right.
everybody obeys God, and it will all be happy.
There you go. For there is a proper time and procedure. Boy, that takes you back. Okay, there's appropriate, right? For every delight, though a man's trouble is heavy upon him. If no one knows what will happen, who can tell him when it will happen? Is that not back to chapter 6 again? Not chapter 7 again, okay? Who's going to tell him what's going to happen in the future? No man has authority to restrain the wind with the wind. Where did that take you? Jesus on the boat. Be still. That just brought me right there. I'm like, but God did. He restrained the wind with the wind. He spoke, breath, wind, be quiet.
Same, I think of Revelation.
Okay, right? Or authority over the day of death. There is no discharge in the time of war, and evil will not deliver those who practice it. All this I have seen and applied my mind to, David will say his heart, to every deed that has been done under the sun, wherein a man has exercised authority over another man to hurt him, so to his hurt. Now, know the proper time and procedure. No man knows the future. Again, I brought that out. Verse 10, sorry, I'm zooming on because of time. So then I have seen the wicked buried, those who used to go in and out from the holy place. So what kind of people are these?
It's the wicked, but
Yeah.
they're in the church.
But they're in the church. These are religious wicked. Religious wicked. They die and are forgotten. And they are soon forgotten in the city where they did thus. This too is futility. Because the sentence against an evil deed, okay, this evil, is just this word just keeps being brought up, is not executed quickly, therefore the hearts of the sons of men among them are given fully to do evil. So if there's a sentence to be carried out, it's not called death row. Here it is. This is it. This is the judgment. Execute it. Otherwise, people just continue to do the evil because, it's going to be a while before I actually have to pay for it. Here we go with the evil. Verse 3, don't join in on an evil matter. Verse 8, evil will not deliver those who practice it. Verse 12, although a sinner does evil 100 times and may lengthen his life, still I know that it will be well for those who, here it is again, fear God, who fear him openly. But it will not be well for the, here we are again, evil man, and he will not lengthen his days like a shadow because he doesn't fear God. There is futility, which is done on the earth. That is, there are righteous men to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked. On the other hand, there are evil men to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. So I say this too is futility. So, here's what I recommend you do, right? There is nothing good for a man under the sun except to eat, drink, and here it is, be merry. But then he doesn't say, for tomorrow we die, does he? It's different. This will stand by him in his toils throughout the days of his life because God gave him that life under the sun. There's the difference. It's not this fatalistic, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. No. Eat, drink, and be merry because God gave you that life to enjoy. That's different. So it's okay if we have hobbies that we like to do. It's okay if we're not in Bible study 24/7. Yes. That's not what he made you to do. He made you to enjoy it. Okay? Evil men are treated as though they are righteous. But I want you to make sure, I've almost cross-referenced this one. Wherever that one is, eat, drink, and be merry before tomorrow you die. I don't know where that one is. Because this is opposite. It's not in Ecclesiastes. It's, I don't think.
Paul say it? Paul quoted it.
Paul quoted it from Old Testament.
Yeah.
See, I don't remember where it is, but I do want to put it there to say this is different. Okay, and then you get cross references. Rather than read it. Man cannot discover or understand every work of God. If you could just look at the ocean, and I look at Jacques Cousteau. I grew up with Jacques Cousteau and everything that he started discovering this. It's like, it's so awesome. It's like, how can that be down there? Yeah, well, there's so much further down there that we can't get down there. You can't discover all that God has done. Isaiah 40:28. I love these descriptions of God. I'm so glad she put those there for us so that we remember who he is. Everlasting, Lord, creator of the ends of the earth, and he never needs a nap. Never. I can't imagine that. He never grows tired or weary. He doesn't go to bed at night. He's the Lord of hosts, the first and the last. There is no other God before him, and he forms us in the womb. I have literally changed my verbiage. It is not an unborn child in the womb. It is preborn. Preborn. That's who they are. They are person. I am a grandmother of 7 now, not 6. 7. Okay? Has this one been born yet? No. But I have 7. He forms light. He creates darkness. He causes, don't ask me to explain that, I don't know. He causes well-being, he causes calamity. He puts to death and he gives life. He wounds, he heals. We know that. No one can deliver out of his hand. No one. I don't care how hard you try. More cross references. He's unsearchable. Well, don't you want to worship a God like that? I don't want to worship a God I just totally understand and know everything that he knows. Then he's not God. He's unsearchable. I cannot know his mind, but I do trust his sovereignty. Okay? People can only understand what God has told us about himself by his Spirit. So isn't that why you read a scripture and you go, I don't know what it says? And then maybe a couple days, maybe a couple years later, you read it and you know exactly what it says. Because his Spirit gave him understanding. He gives his Spirit to those who believe in Jesus. And I question this daily. I don't have the mind of Christ. I don't. Yes, you do. But do I use it? Not always. But I do have it. It is accessible to me. Possible theme, you got to have authority, but you got to have evil in there somewhere. That's for sure, because that is so repeated. And joy and fear God, fear God. Now, we're coming to the end.
The Old Testament reference is Isaiah 22:13.
Isaiah 22:13?
Yeah,
Thank you. To verse
to 15.
Say it again.
Isaiah 22:13
Thank you.
is,
Oh,
let us
8.
eat and drink, you say, for
Yes.
tomorrow we die.
And then, New Testament is 1 Corinthians 15:32.
First one?
1 Corinthians 15:32.
32. And say yours again, Lynn.
Isaiah 22:13.
Thank you. And simply because we're coming to the end, we always want to, a theme of the book that fits with the theme of our chapter so that we can always reference back. Okay, so in that, what is the meaning of life? This. What's the meaning of life? Chapter 2 says this. What's the meaning of life? Chapter 4 says this is what we want to do. But only by doing that did I realize it said, fear God, fear God, fear God, fear God. All the way back to chapter 3 it said, fear God. So somewhere in my understanding of this book has to be fear God. So when people want to go, what's the meaning of life? Well, if you read Ecclesiastes, you've got to come away somewhere that says, fear God. Yeah, but what else? I don't know. We have 9, 10, 11, and 12 to go to. Then we'll come up with a total conclusion of. But we know what the end of 12 says, right? Fear God and keep his commandments. How are you going to keep his commandments if you don't know what they are? That's a literal progression into then I need to study the word so I know what they are. Okay? This is the meaning of life. And what meaning of life? Know God. The only way to know God is to know his word. In knowing his word, you fear him. If you fear him, then you keep his commandments. It all just kind of goes together. This is what our world is looking for. Meaning of life. Everything is just useless. No, it's not. If you believe that nobody has any control and everything is just haphazard and it just happens, then yes, there's no use in life. But to know that there's a sovereign God holding it all together and having a plan, that's different. That's hope. That's wisdom. Shall I leave that up for just a little bit so that you guys, but I think you have your things on your at-a-glance chart, but I can leave it up for just a few minutes. And David is today, and he's short again. Next week, again, our last class till August, I think it's 25th. I really think we're going to do Sermon on the Mount, unless God changes something. Or you have another opinion. Feel free to email and suggest. And yeah, hopefully a potluck next week, so everybody can just stay for a little bit and then go on toward their sermon. All right? Okay, I get about a 5-minute break here.
Jenny, do you have notes from last week?
I do.
I would have left.
Oh, I shall give it
I
to you.
need one too.
You need one too?
Yeah.
What?
You want one for Brenda as well?
Nah.
No, she'll be all right?
No, she's,
No, it's not.
having a little trouble getting her lessons. I don't think she even touched the book this week. Too much on her mind, I guess.
And you know, life happens.
Yeah.
What is,
Yes,
What
please.
is this Robbie? Did I miss something?
Yeah, Rob, wait, now where I lost my cursor.
Sorry.
Oh, don't you know what? I do that, right?
I like Samson.
I do that. Oh,
Every time I hear Samson, I think it's a dog.
Um,
And then we like talk about it in nature.